All right, thanks for attending today's presentation. Um, this is the proposal graphics, planning and navigating for success. I'm Vince. I'm the art director here in research development office. I've been in my role for 3.5 years. I work closely with our proposal managers and I support faculty and researchers with graphics to visually enhance their proposals. All right, so we can get started. Here's just an agenda to keep things on track. We will have answers to why are graphics a good way to enhance a proposal? What qualities make graphics successful? Why is it essential to bring in a designer on proposals? We'll go over some examples to enhance graphics, and also I'll give you some tools to help empower research development professionals with graphics in case you may be working on your own or just you want to just enhance your skills in the graphic design world. At the very end, we'll have time for some questions. I'll go over and I'll dig into the chat. Just feel free to put your questions in the chat as they come up in case you do forget. And then at the end, we'll go back and reference them and I'll answer your questions you may have. I'm hoping that after this presentation, you'll feel more confident and have more knowledge with proposal graphics. Okay, so here we'll discuss some key items on enhancing so that you stand out amongst other proposals that are submitted to sponsors. Many times there may be 50 to 100 different proposals at a time submitted to various sponsors. So you want to make sure your proposal stand out by bringing in graphics to just enhance it and uplift the proposal amongst your competitors. But before we discuss why graphics are good for enhancing proposals, we must discuss some of the different kinds of graphics there are. There can be charts, graphs, illustrations, infographics, and photography. These are commonly used in proposals. To choose, you must know what type of content you have. So if you're trying to showcase any data you collected from your findings, it's best to showcase that with some type of chart or a graph. If you're trying to show a process going from point A to point B with some deliverables or so on, it's best to show that through an illustration. Um, Also, you want to use photography when you want to show the space or people you are working with or in or with. And later, I'll provide you with a resource on helping determine what kind of graphic you'll need. Also, just keep in mind the use of graphics does require some time to ensure success. I like to use the saying proper planning prevents poor performance. You always want to have an early deadline. Make sure changes are beneficial to the proposal and aren't just because of your personal preference. In other words, like if you have words and data, make sure you have your words and your actual data correct before having a change of some color from blue to purple. That's not really a beneficial change when there's other things that could be enhanced or wrong with your content. Also, you want to make sure, are you telling a good story? It'll be good to introduce graphics and a summary in the narrative if needed. Sometimes PIs do this by having a sub caption below or to the right or to the left of the graphic, depending on the page layout, which we'll get to later on. Also, if there needs to be a key or a legend off to the side to determine what a color or a shape may symbolize, there are some good things to include, but just be sure to build in the time to do the consultation and also time for iterations that may come up later on. If you have a good graphic, you can reuse it for longevity. Initial organization of a graphic helps you write the proposal. It also allows you to not write so much in the narrative and to use the graphics to illustrate the process. Rather than writing a page long narrative about, what's going on from point A to point B and how it's implemented, it'll be good to showcase that within a graphic that can also capture the reader's attention and will just better to illustrate that process. It'll be more helpful for them to understand what's going on with the process you're trying to showcase. With the graphics also and all the text, you want to make sure you have the visual breaks in your narrative. Knowing how to space things in a creative way gives your reader some breathing room so they are not overwhelmed. They can be overwhelmed with lots of text or lots of data, or even sometimes graphics can be overwhelming if there's just too much on the page. So it's important to practice good layout skills and use other examples as a reference. These examples could be simple magazines you may find, newspapers, and journal articles. Often these will show good balance, continuity, and hierarchy, and also some contrast, which some of these basic design elements I'm sure you heard before. These help just, give some breaks in the reading and just help relax the reader's eye a little bit, but also keep them focused and engaged. You don't want to overcomplicate them or just overwhelm them with too much. So having just that visual break skill is great. And just also you can reference that just looking at a newspaper or a magazine is a good example just to show you how to break the pages up into different sections with the use of text and graphics and so forth. If the graphic is well thought out and easy to read, then it will help you create the mood to showcase how great of a writer you are. It will also show how great your ideas are, which will help persuade the sponsor. The reviewing team may be looking at a large amount of proposals, so it's important to implement graphics into your narrative to capture the reader's attention. Here are just some takeaways. So we went over to know what kind of graphics there are. Like I said, it could be data. You want to showcase that using a chart or a graph. Process, you want to show more of an illustrative type of graphic. And if it's something descriptive, it'll be good to bring in actual photography or photos you may have. A lot of PIs do this by bringing in photos from a site visit or from a lab. Those are just great examples to just showcase that. You also want to build in time for the iterations. There may be changes that come with the graphics. So you want to just build a little cushion of time so you're not really too rushed at the end with changes and so forth. Also, you want to plan your narrative around your graphics. It helps actually you think through the proposal when you do so. It kind of just organizes your thoughts in a way that's just a nice creative way. Just so you're not just your thoughts aren't scattered all over the place. It just helps you re-engage and just reintroduce new ideas as well, just to keep things organized. Also, just remember the use of graphics, it increases the chance of being read, but you also want to make sure you remember to allow visual breaks within your pages. Okay. Graphics enhances the viewer's focus on the page and they help to convey information quicker. Here we'll go over some qualities that make graphics be successful in a proposal. First, you want to be sure to read the rules. There are specific sponsor rules for submission that can affect graphics, such as what font and the font size. You also want to be sure to share this information with all parties that may be working on your graphics. You don't want to make the mistake of having good graphics turn into a pixelated disaster. Be sure to export the files as high res to place into the document. These usually are in PDF and sometimes PNG format. High-res PDF graphics are often called vector format in the design world. Just want to make sure your graphics are just strong, crisp. You don't want to see too much blurriness because it just takes a lot away from the graphic and kind of just also downplays the proposal a little bit. It just takes away from the quality. So you want to kind of avoid that and make sure the designer or yourself or the graphics team is exporting those in the highest quality as possible. Also, color theory is a big part. The mood actually affects the viewer's digestibility of your content. Colors have meaning behind them, such as red usually means importance or an error or a negative meaning, and green may mean calm, positive, or growth. In your proposal, be sure that you're aware of readers' blindness, but use color to your advantage in your graphic. To help do that, you want to just make sure your colors are contrasting. Blindness is definitely important with colors of red and green. So to kind of avoid that, you might want to just use oranges and blues in place of that. And then also make sure your hues of those colors are enough contrast as well, because sometimes the reviewers, they may print out these pages in black and white. Sometimes they may print in color. Sometimes they may just be looking at them digitally, but sometimes we just don't know. So you want to be sure the colors being used offer some contrast variation, so they can still show up in black and white. They'll be in just different gray tones. You don't want everything to be completely washed. So having the different contrasts, it just brightens up and it shows variation within the graphics you're trying to showcase, even if they're printing in black and white ink. Again, be sure to read the rules from the sponsor and use clear, sharp fonts for best readability, unlike the example. Some sponsors may need the graphics to be in a certain font, as we previously discussed. Also, keep in mind, graphics can be very small to fit on a page, so it's best to use Arial or similar fonts as it's very easy to read in smaller sizes. If the graphic is good, then it can easily be used elsewhere, such as a presentation, a cover, or other means later on that you may come back to as a reference. Sometimes graphics also are used as building blocks or a template for a proposal you may work on later on. There are oftentimes I may do a proposal graphic for a PI, um, and because it's like a good quality and we really spent time on it and worked through it, that same graphic they may use later on in a presentation for another purpose. Also, they may submit to a similar or the same sponsor again couple years later for resubmission or for another proposal, and they actually come back to me and reference that same graphic, which we kind of use as like the bones, and we kind of just built from that same graphic. So we use it as a template. So that's why it's kind of good to just spend time on the graphics and make sure they're really thorough. Then they can be used as multi-use purposes later on, which I call timeless. Here's just some takeaways. So be sure to communicate any of the sponsor rules you have with the team members working on graphics that may affect their work. Remember, we talked about the fonts and also the font size. Please keep that in mind. Certain sponsors may want 8-point font or 10, maybe 12. So you just want to make sure you read over the rules and tell your designer or graphics team. And they may require a certain font. It could be Times New Roman, it could be Arial. Just those, usually those simple ones. There's nothing really too dramatic because they have to be able to read it and stuff. So just be sure to communicate that with the designer or the design team. Also, don't be afraid to use colors. They can be beneficial to your narrative. For instance, I'm going to be working on a sustainability proposal, and that's from that. When I do that, I usually like to do earth tones and greens just to make it fun. I'll be working on a aquatics proposal. Then I'll bring in some different hues of blues and also some bright coral type of colors just to like go along with that theme. But just keep in mind to have some contrast within your colors and keep in mind of if it may be some readers with blindness as well. So I try to implement that, and also they may print it in black and white. So that's why it's important to have that color contrast as we previously discussed. Also, timeless graphics to help with longevity and multi-purpose use. Once you have your good graphic, a lot of times they will use it again for a proposal or for a cover. Also, remember we talked about how it could be a template or a building block for a graphic later on. You may have another team member or PI working on a different graphic and they're like, hey, I remember we worked on this together. Can I just take a look at it and see how I can implement it into my proposal? That happens a lot with PIs that work in the same school or the same department or unit. It's a small world at ASU, even though it's a very large campus. A lot of times they'll just know I worked on something, then they'll contact me and we'll just rework it into their own proposal as a template. So that happens a lot too. Just you want to make sure you have those timeless graphics as they are beneficial and they do save a lot of time later on. Okay, so here we'll talk about why it's essential to bring a designer on proposal. You may be working on a very large, complex proposal, and it can be beneficial to bring a designer like myself. So here we'll discuss not only why it's essential, but also how to hire the talent. This may be a new process for you to hire specialized creative talent to be a great asset in your proposal. Okay, so hiring talent can be difficult to find someone with a specialized skill. Sometimes we need specialized knowledge or experience to uplift our proposals onto the next competitive level. In research development, we work with a variety of external partners who augment our team's skill sets. We regularly share this information with anyone who asks. Be certain of how much you want to spend on consultation. Hourly and project rates may vary, and it's in your best interest to be very specific regarding the work you want to be performed. You must contract with these individuals, organizations using your own department's school process. If you are working on a proposal with an award of at least $1 million a year or more, please feel free to reach out to us as I will be the main person supporting you with graphics. If you are under the award amount threshold, please still feel free to reach out and I can give you some resources to help, just to make sure your proposals are good and just visually standing out from your competition. So here are some skills you want to look for in case you are bringing in a designer or you're just trying to scout one out for hire. You want them to be detail oriented. With there being so much information to collect and keep, you want to be sure the talent can think past the obvious and more into the specifics that need to be captured. You want them to be organized as well. With proposals having lots of moving parts and lots of members involved at times, it is important for the talent to keep things in order and easy accessible. Customer oriented, of course, basic communication skills in order to manage the process and keep things moving forward. It's really specialized one. You want them to be design savvy and illustrator. Most proposal graphics are usually created with illustrative techniques and need high res vectorized file output, as we previously discussed. And a lot of times that usually involves being able to be tech savvy and work around Illustrator. And lastly, you want to provide specifics on the project. It is important to give the talent all the details they need to be successful. You also want to ask for their past experience and examples to get an idea if they are the right person you like to work with on your proposal. Some of us are really specialized. There are a lot of us that are more specialized in medical illustrations. A lot of us specialize in 3D renderings and stuff. We're all different. So you want to make sure, you know, the type of project you're looking for, you to make sure they're able to do that and provide examples from them to just make sure they're a good fit for your specific project. Again, we discussed time, but also time is of the essence, especially for proposal submission. So that's why you want to provide two deadlines. One of them will be used for the proposal submission, to submit all your documents to the final proposal to the sponsor. And another deadline you want to keep in mind is one just for graphics being completed. You want to plan time for meeting, to scope work, and also have revisions or iterations. Generally, I meet with teams to discuss graphics 2 to 3 weeks before a sponsor submission date. Sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it could be a month or more, if it's like a really large proposal and the team is very large and stuff, then we'll probably meet sooner. But I always try to meet 2 to 3 weeks prior before the sponsor deadline so I can meet with them. There's time for revisions and I have time to actually do the work and stuff. So I always try to do 2 to 3 weeks before sponsor deadline date. As graphics can also have between 1 to 3 iterations needed, so it's important to build in the time to do so and communicate that with the designer. A change can take me or a designer 24 to 48 hours based on what's needed. And keep in mind that I may be working on several other proposals at the same time from different sponsors from different teams. So just be mindful of time and you want to make sure you plan that in your budget and plan that into your calendar as well. Also, you want to provide content. The designer cannot create your ideas. You want to provide the designer with what's needed to succeed. So you want to feel free to provide examples on what needs to be achieved. Feel free to bring in examples from inspiration that you may see online that you think will look good with your proposal. The designer can take a look at that and sort of work it in your proposal, but also keep it custom to you and what your goals are. But also be mindful that the designer, we need the exact words and the text that will be used in the graphic to be successful. One example of this is that we'll get into later our organizational charts. I'm sure many of you are probably familiar with them, but designer, we can't guess the names and roles and figure out where to place people. So we can only visually enhance the information and provide feedback if things are unclear. So when meeting with the designer, bring in the drafts, bring in your content, inspiration, so that collaboratively we can develop a game plan for graphic success. So here's some takeaways on why it's essential to bring a designer on a proposal. We went over the skills to look for in a designer. You want them detail oriented, organized, customer oriented, and design savvy and illustrator. Also, you want yourself or your team to provide specifics to the designer as well, so things are clear and concise throughout the process. Remember, we talked about two deadlines. So one is for proposal submission date, and one is for graphics complete, just to build in that pillow or that cushion in case things may come up, which they do. Often I may get an email 4 days proposal, hey, this person dropped, which is unfortunate because it's like so late in the game for people to be dropping out, but it does happen. So I have to remove names and so forth and restructure certain graphics. So that's why I like to build in that pillow or that cushion just in case emergencies may happen. Also, it's good to do that just so I'm or the designers out your way. You can focus on other parts of your proposal and finish the writing content. Um, Also, you want to provide the content for them. Like I said, the names of people or the exact wording that you may need in the graphic. A lot of times I'll get the wording and then it may be long. I'm like, okay, well, can we cut this down a bit? So it's best to have something to work with. I always like to have more than enough than not enough. It's hard to kind of pull content from someone, so it's best to like just provide it all, and then from there we'll skim things down and abbreviate and shorten sentences as we need, just to make sure the graphics are still giving the right message that needs to be perceived. So here we'll go over some examples, some real life examples that I actually come from me and other proposals I worked with to visually enhance proposal graphics. So I'll go over just some different mockups and what I did to enhance them and so forth. Also keep in mind that you may see some text that is blurred out. I have those blurred out just for privacy reasons of the proposal. Okay, so this is the first one. On the left is the original draft from the team, and on the right is my enhanced version of the draft. You could see the original wasn't as unified and it's a bit too simplistic. The way the original was made wouldn't be good for multi-purpose use as we discussed. So to enhance that, I added color from the color theory slide we talked about. Therefore, the team can then identify the different parts of the group, which then can be separated out with those colors later on in the proposal for a PowerPoint, or they can highlight those different four groups into the different sections, and then each one of them are color coded. So it's a good reference saying to see that. For instance, the top one is green, meaning it could be a community type of group. So in a proposal, when they're referencing community groups, they can utilize green or utilize some other graphics that are in that same color green. It kind of just ties everything together. Also on the left side, the arrows, they're a bit of an eyesore. So I simplified that out by just dropping the arrows completely and just playing around with the shapes of the four groups to just showcase, they're working together and there's some type of motion as well. Um, and here we can see how the multi-purpose came into aspect. So from that four-part wheel, I like to call it. It sort of became like an identifier or some type. It's kind of like a identifier or a icon or a logo. You can see how again, those four colors came together within this organizational chart. Some people that are green, some people or organizations that are gold, purple, and blue, and so forth. And I have the text blurred again just for privacy reasons, but you can see how we are using the previous graphic for multi-purpose use. So it has become sort of a identifier logo. Here we're utilizing the colors to coordinate with the sections of the organizational chart. All right, here on the left is literally an email I got from PI. I asked to send me, it was a process. So I asked them just to send me like describe the process in fewest words as possible, what's going on. And on the right, of course, is my visual interpretation that I gathered from the content, which serves as a good starting point for further development. You can see he says to communicate, they hold yearly design workshops. The output from design workshops will feed forward into the pedigree archive. This is an AI focused proposal, this FY, and then the visibility of the pedigree archive nationally will feed into the recruitment and scale of our annual conference. Then those ideas from the annual conference they'll take those ideas and what they learn and they'll bring them back into future conferences. Since this is a yearly workshop or a conference, it'll just feedback into it from the new idea. So that's kind of like what I interpreted and envisioned. Just as a starting point, there was some iterations to this. This isn't the final, but you can see how just taking those words can be utilized into a draft of a graphic for further development. And you can see the amount of words he has there and how I shorten things is to keep it moving and keep it short to grab the reader's attention and incorporating that color blend just to show some unity as well, going from the green to the teal to the blue and back around. This is how I just enhance that particular example. Again, on the left, that was the PI's draft. Again, I blurred the text and added just some mock-up texts for privacy reasons for this particular proposal. You can see on the left, the graphic looks a little bit dated. It'd be made stronger to show the unifying relationship amongst the parts. On the right, I broke it down again by color, and I was able to embed actually some images that they had from each of those cores. So you can see the little circle. There was actually an image there from the site, just from each section that I was able to embed into there as well, just to like really make the graphic stand out and just have as most information as possible in there, but not being too overwhelming for the reader. Um, so you can see how the three sections on the left, they're kind of just they're connected, but they're also kind of separated. And then they had the more of a core in that gray box at the bottom. So I just redid it by having the three rings, the green, the dark navy blue, and the orange, and then the core of the gray box became the bright blue box, the bright blue circle in the middle. Then they had like a list of names of each, so I had the names in each circle as well. Here's another example. This one actually was a sustainability one, as you may assume from my graphic on the right. So here the PI just had a lot of information. It was very just all the information was there, which was good, but then we needed to uplift it a bit, add some color, make it a little more interesting and to read and just try to capture the reader's attention. So I got rid of all the circles and of that, and I just created more of a flow type of thing with an arrow. I also have some illustrations and icons for each process you see in my circles. And then you can see the end result was a sustainability focus on impact for energy. So you can see how I illustrated that. The text is blurred, of course, for privacy reasons, but you can see how I went from point A to point B with this proposal and bring in the color since it was a sustainability one. I wanted to include some earth tones and some greens in there just to tie everything together. Next one was this one. This was a lot for me to really like digest and figure out. So on the left, he had like this core, the PI had a core and he had different functions at the bottom, but he wanted to be more unified. Right now, it just looks like it's two different graphics. Also, I wasn't a big fan of the red because it just in that sense he used it, it just gave it like a negative connotation with all the reds he used. So I got rid of all the reds. And I moved the circular one onto mine. I used green tones. And then the three, all the names of the schools and abbreviations I've done in the purple around the entire graphic to show how they're working together and they're still a part of the graphic. And then you can see in the middle, I have those three statements. Those are some statements that those are also three functions as well. So it was just a lot with this graphic. It was just a lot to digest, but The message was there that how it's a core and everyone's working together in their own function, but it's still unified. Everyone still has their identifiers as well. The schools have the purple tone, the pillars have the green tone, and the three in the middle have more of a bluish tone. So later on in the proposal, we also did other graphics that focused on each different section. So for the outer one that was purple, those graphics were also purple within the proposal and so forth, just to show some unity within. But there was a lot because I had a lot of text to work with, and it was just a lot of moving parts with this that I wanted to showcase. So I'm glad we were able to make it just one unified graphic instead of the two, which just it doesn't really work well with what they're trying to portray in their proposal narrative to have those two separate graphics, top and bottom. So that was one I did as well. Here's another one. This one was more of a time graphic. So on the left, that was all his information he gave me. This was like a program for students. Also this was focused around sustainability. So that's why I did sunflower and I showed the roots and I used the leaves as a stem for each year going from year 1 to year 6. You can see on the bottom left, I have the key for the stipends that he mentioned in the chart and the traineeships and the blue and the orange for each year, what's going in for each year, 6, 12, and so forth. Then you can see within each year there's like a main course. So I had those as the top leaf. It says foundation and so forth. And then the small text at the bottom is just the core things that they're going to learn within the year. I chose the flower to be the outcome as what they're going to impact and come out with, basically, the skills they'll achieve, and how they'll be a good pillar in the community and a community activist. So this was just a more of a timeline type of graphic, but still a lot of content. There's a clear message, just going from the left to the right, how I illustrated that. It's a lot of words, but it's still not too overwhelming. I try to balance out the words with the graphic and the colors. I thought I did a good job with it. It didn't take too much room in the page as well. It's just a nice horizontal timeline graphic that was a little bit more creative, going with the sustainability theme. Here's another proposal. This one was NASA. With NASA, it's a little bit more free. There's not much rules for graphics, so I can have a little more flexibility. You can see how the graphics play a part with the layout. As we previously discussed, they have the summary there, and then right just from the jump, you can see to the right, they have this circular graphic that outlines the 4 objectives within their proposal. So we have that there. And at the bottom was this little identifier. That was like their logo. It had a cover page. So that was like their logo we used for it. And you can see on the right, they had this chart, which is, charts are a bit tough because there's so much information and text, but we wanted it to stand out a bit, which is also kind of hard because the more text you have, the less creativity you can have like graphics, especially these are just so small on a page. So you can see how the 4 objectives, 1, 2, 3, 4, I gave them each the color green, blue, like a reddish and a gold orange color. So we had that laid out in the circle graphic, and then in the chart they went back and referenced those same objectives using the same color to create the harmony and unification that was needed, just to make sure it's all clear going with what objective means what. There were some other graphics within the proposal as well that we utilize the same colors with just to bring everything together as one big picture, just to keep them engaged and not too confused with all the objectives. And it just keeps things clear and gives them each their own identity in a way. All right. And just here I will go over some tools and resources to help you in case you may be working on some graphics and you don't have access to a designer or myself. I like to make sure you guys are all empowered with resources and tools to help you along the way. So first, you can head over to our website, flooding.asu.edu. It's right there. That's a lookbook I actually developed. I had an opportunity to create some helpful pieces of literature you can download from our department's website listed above. And there you'll find a PDF lookbook guide where I walk you through some of the most common types of proposal graphics I run into and how to determine them. Also on the site, you will find a blog on how to conceptualize your own graphics as well. And next, also, we have another resource. It's called Billion Dollar Graphics by Mark Parkinson. It's a graphics cheat sheet. Pretty much it's a guide to even more types of proposal graphics that are available. There's also a big PowerPoint tool library that we do have access to, just to help build your own graphics and mock them out. There's a lot of templates we have there available for you. However, just reach out to one of us on our team and we'll give you access to them. This is a good tool just to help build your graphics. And then remember we mentioned how graphics can help you lay out your ideas and your narrative to help you write the proposals, to keep things organized. So that's also a good tool to use as well. Totally free. Again, just reach out to one of the members of our team. We'll give you access. It's a PowerPoint based graphic builder. You can change the colors and so forth. We'll have all that information for you as well. Also, we talked about color theory. So here's a good way just to like help decide on color and themes. You can use Adobe Color to help decide on color schemes for your proposals. You can use a custom color wheel that will generate different color harmony variations, or you can explore the latest trends and choose from there. It's a really good website. It also generates color hex codes, so you have the exact color match in case you're going from different mediums. Each color has their own code, for instance. So you want to make sure all the colors match throughout. And this website will give you the exact color hex code needed. If you want to also communicate that to a designer, or you may have a vendor, who knows, you may be designing t-shirts or something and you have graphics from a proposal you may want to incorporate into a t-shirt for your team as a thank you gift. It could be anything, and you'll have the exact colors by having the hex code outputted for you. Also, here's a new resource. It was launched last month. It's actually from NIH. If you're in need of some science and medical art visuals, you want to check out NIH Bio Art Source. The NIH Bio Art Source stands out due to its meticulous curation and collaboration process. Unlike many other repository sites you may find online, the NIH BioArt source features illustrations created by professional medical illustrators in partnership with subject matter experts. So here's just a good source. Of course, it's coming from NIH, so it's valid, and you won't have any confusion or things with the medical illustrations. You literally can just search them all through the database. Then you also can download them as PNG files or EPS. Files as well, and then you can utilize them in your PowerPoint or even with your proposals. It's all free to use. So that's a good resource you want to check out as well. Okay, so we have discussed why our graphics a good way to enhance proposal, what qualities make graphics to be successful in proposal. We went over some examples that I went through to visually enhance proposal graphics. Just keep in mind, the designer has already done the time to learn and navigate graphic software. The time it may take you to make a graphic can sometimes be 3 times slower than it would be a designer. So if possible, you just want to save the time and the stress of your team and make your proposals more competitive by bringing in a designer. Um, Sometimes you can't, but however, as we discussed, if you are working on a proposal with an award of at least $1 million a year, please feel free to reach out to us, as I will be your main guide and your source for the graphics. That's my contact email at the top, vrs@asu.edu. Here's also some more literature I've drafted up just to like get you going, and also just to lay out some expectations and guidelines of time. I'll go over, you see there, I have the virtual meet, everything's through Zoom. I'll build in time to the draft review, then I'll give you time for revisions. Then also I'll have the final graphic for you to output into your documents for your proposal. And then on the left, you can see how I just break things through to help you conceptualize your content into the graphics and how to prepare them and so forth. So there's just some resources. I have the PDFs of these guys I can give you. once you reach out to me, to set up a meeting or just to chat or just to reach out to get resources. Some of these are also on our website under the graphics page on funding.asu.edu. That pretty much it. That wraps up the proposal. So this was number 8, proposal graphics, planning, navigating for success. Next, actually next year, next semester on the 7th will be budgeting. So it'll be a good flow from the graphics to the budget, just to make sure you're effectively and using our resources we have available to you. And now we will have time for some questions. I'll go in the chat just to dig through them, and then feel free to raise your hand and ask as well. Okay.
I didn't see any questions come in on the chat, and that's perfectly okay. But if you have questions now, Vince is an absolute expert. So if you have anything, please feel free to ask. If you'd like to follow up via email, that's also welcome. Completely up to you. And if we don't have any live questions, that's okay too. We are available via email, researchdevelopment@asu.edu, and our website's funding.asu.edu. You can contact us there. Again, Vince is happy to consult on all sorts of projects and proposal graphics, so please get in touch with us. And if he's not the right fit for you, we have other resources like you mentioned that we can connect you with and make sure you are successful in this graphics adventure that you're on. Thank you for attending today. We don't have to keep you much longer if you don't have any live questions. We will send out these slides so you have the resources, and we'll send out the recording as well. Thank you so much for your time. Have a lovely day and happy holidays. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, depending on when you're taking vacations and things, when I see you again. Thank you all.